Chapter 1146. Just now when she woke up, Elvis was hugging Leah in this position, but the look between Elvis and Leah was definitely not like what Gu Meng Meng was showing now. But as the impact was too great, Elvis and Leah were already in a daze, so they did not notice this detail. With that, Gu Meng Meng turned around and walked behind Elvis. She crossed her legs around Elvis's waist and placed her right hand on Elvis's right shoulder. She lowered it and placed it on Elvis's chest while her left hand went under Elvis's left armpit and hooked upwards, touching Elvis's heart. Her little head landed on Elvis's left shoulder and she opened her mouth. Closing her teeth, she bit on Elvis's shoulder. Before she let go, she even licked Elvis's shoulder with the tip of her tiny tongue, causing Elvis to shudder. Gu Meng Meng smiled innocently, looking up at Leah and asked, "Or do you want me to forget about this?" With that, Gu Meng Meng got down from Elvis's body again, drawing circles on the bite mark on Elvis's left shoulder with her little hand. From the size of the bite mark, it was obvious that it was not Gu Meng Meng's, and there were 4 deeper holes, obviously made by her fangs. Leah instantly felt as if he was struck by lightning, staring at Gu Meng Meng in shock. The snow had sealed the mountain and there were only 3 people in this cave. Gu Meng Meng did not have fangs, so unless Elvis could pull his own head off and place it on his shoulder to bite himself, that bite mark could only be him. The scene of Gu Meng Meng seductively hanging onto Elvis's body replayed endlessly in Lee's mind, then automatically replaced with his own. Leah fell and sat on the ground, feeling as though all his hopes had been dashed to pieces. Elvis was not much better than Leah. The act of putting his hands in his hair and hugging his neck was imitated by Gu Meng Meng, then the act of hugging his back and biting his shoulder was obviously imitated by her. Elvis clenched his fists and asked in a cold voice, "Leah and I, last night, happened, he could not bring himself to ask." Gu Meng Meng tried hard to hold back her laughter and said, "So many things happened, do you want me to replay them one by one for you to see?" "No need." Leo looked up abruptly and took a deep breath. Then, he gritted his teeth and said, "You just have to tell me one thing. Between the 2 of us, who was on top and who was on bottom?" Gu Meng Meng was laughing like a dog in her heart, but it was such a rare opportunity. He had to hold it in. Thus, Gu Meng Meng tapped her chin lightly with her little hand, as if she was trying hard to recall. Then, she said, "Oh, you were pressed down by Elvis yesterday. And beaten up." Gu Meng Meng did not say the last word naughtily. Lee's face turned green and Elvis was no better. So, both of them betrayed Gu Meng Meng and did something indescribable in front of her. Elvis staggered to the side of the wine barrel and raised his paw to smash it. Gu Meng Meng was shocked and immediately rushed over to block the barrel. She stared wide-eyed at Elvis and asked, "What are you doing?" Elvis's eyes were bloodshot and when he looked at Gu Meng Meng, he felt like his heart was aching. He squeezed out a sentence from the gaps of his teeth, word by word, "Let me destroy this harmful thing first, then you can punish me, alright?" Gu Meng Meng was taken aback when she met Elvis's eyes. She wanted to play a prank but did not want to hurt Elvis and Lee's hearts. Chapter 1147. "Hubby, don't be angry, listen to my explanation." Gu Meng Meng tried to comfort Elvis, but Elvis smiled bitterly and said, "Ah, you have already decided not to want me, right? So I have no right to destroy your things." "It's not like that." Gu Meng Meng shook her head, but Elvis did not give her a chance to finish her sentence. He took a step back and opened his chest as if he was about to die a martyr. He said, "Come on, end me. If I can die in your hands, I can die without regrets." Gu Meng Meng felt guilty. She did not want to play to this extent. She originally wanted to see Elvis and Lee's awkward look, but she ended up making them sad. Gu Meng Meng directly flew into Elvis's arms and bumped into him. She shook her head and said, "Hubby, nothing happened between you and Leah." Elvis's back stiffened and he immediately lowered his shoulders. He said, "You are still so kind and soft-hearted." Even after such a thing happened, you still can't bear to kill me. Ha, but what should I do? I can't face you. Gu Meng Meng hugged Elvis tightly and said, I didn't lie to you, really. Both of you had a fight last night and it was a little fierce, so I used my beast pressure to make both of you faint afterward. Leah swayed his tail and stood up from the ground. He turned around and leaned against the side of the wooden barrel. He crossed his arms and looked at Gu Meng Meng. He said, Elvis, don't be so calculative. Anyway, I am the one at a disadvantage. I don't even mind, why do you mind? Didn't Meng Meng always want to see such a scene? Let's just take it as a sacrifice to satisfy her. The veins on Elvis's forehead protruded. He looked at Leah coldly and said, yeah, right, I almost forgot about you. With that, Elvis stretched out his sharp claws and pounced towards Leah, looking like he wanted to take his life. Leah lowered his body and easily dodged. He then pulled Gu Meng Meng over and pushed her in front of Elvis. He hid behind Gu Meng Meng and said, Meng Meng, look at him. He took advantage of me and still wants to abuse me. Sobs, 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 I can't live on anymore. If you can't, then go and die. Elvis said and wanted to attack again, but Leah just pushed Gu Meng Meng as a shield, dodging left and right to avoid Elvis's attack. Elvis was afraid of hurting Gu Meng Meng, so he tried many times but failed to hit Leah. Gu Meng Meng was dizzy from being shaken by Leah, but looking at the situation, she understood that Leah had reacted and believed Gu Meng Meng's words, so Gu Meng Meng could only beg for mercy. All right, Leah, stop fooling around. Hurry and explain to Elvis, he will get angry if you continue. Only then did Leah pull Gu Meng Meng into his arms, pinching her little nose and shaking it left and right. His long and narrow eyes were filled with ridicule and reproach, as well as overwhelming indulgence and pampering. Why didn't I see you being so obedient when you caused trouble? Are you begging for mercy now that you can't clean up the mess? I was wrong, I was wrong. Gu Meng Meng looked up at Leah with her innocent little puppy face and begged, hurry up. Elvis will really flip out if you continue. Leah tapped Gu Meng Meng's little nose and said, I will settle the score with you later. Gu Meng Meng stuck out her little tongue and lowered her head in defeat. Leah, on the other hand, walked 2 steps towards Elvis out of boredom. He wanted to touch Elvis just now, but Elvis dodged away like he was avoiding the plague. Chapter 1148. Leah. Gu Meng Meng called Leah softly, with a, why are you adding oil to the fire? Expression as she looked at Leah. Leah poked Gu Meng Meng's little head, then looked at Elvis with a chuckle. If I'm in heat, I will emit my fox seductive fragrance uncontrollably. I can't even control it myself. Take a sniff, does this cave have my fox seductive fragrance? Elvis was taken aback. Then he really sniffed carefully with his nose. No, there really wasn't. A crack seemed to appear on Elvis's face, then an expression as if he had just survived a calamity slowly emerged from the sinister surface. Leah poked Elvis's shoulder again, saying, look at the wound yourself, does it look like I bit you when you were flirting? When have you ever seen me bite Gu Meng Meng so harshly? With that, Elvis lowered his head to look at the wound on his shoulder. Indeed, to a male, this kind of wound was nothing, but one could tell that it was not left by biting when he was in heat. The flesh was already flipped open, he must have bitten really hard at that time. Leah rubbed his own hair again, then gently pushed it aside for Elvis to see, saying, have you ever seen anyone scratch out such a deep wound on their scalp while touching someone's hair? This technique, why do I feel like you wanted to fix my head in place, then directly blow it off? Elvis glanced at the wound on Lee's head. Yeah, this was his usual technique. The turbid air in his chest finally dispersed. Elvis looked at Gu Meng Meng with a complicated gaze. Xiao Meng, come here. Gu Meng Meng walked over timidly, pinching Elvis's beast-skin skirt lightly with 2 fingers, saying, I was just joking, I didn't expect you to take it seriously. I was wrong, I won't joke like this again in the future. Elvis poked Gu Mingming's little head, sighing helplessly. You also promised me the same thing the last time you had a nosebleed. Which meant that her credibility had gone bankrupt. Gu Mengmeng smiled awkwardly, wrapping her arms around Elvis's waist. That was because you shouted at me yesterday, that's why I pranked you. Elvis raised his eyebrows. He did not believe that he would yell at Gu Mengmeng. It was not enough for him to hold her in his palm. Seeing that Elvis did not believe her, Gu Mingming's face darkened and she mimicked Elvis's tone and expression yesterday. Don't butt in when it comes to males. You yelled at me like that yesterday. The impression was blurry, but Elvis seemed to have said something like that. Rubbing Gu Mingming's little head, Elvis could not be angry at her at all. Just now, he thought that he was going to lose her, so he kept praying to the beast deity that everything in front of him was just a dream. Now, he had gotten what he wanted, so why would he be bothered about Gu Mingming's prank? On top of that, Elvis's heart ached even more when he heard that he had shouted at her last night. His Xiao Meng should be treasured and listened to the most gentle words in the world. How could he bear to yell at her? Hugging Gu Mengmeng and kissing the top of her head, Elvis said guiltily, I'm sorry, I might have gone crazy to shout at you. Gu Mengmeng looked up at Elvis with a smile, asking, then let's treat it as if we're even. You're not allowed to settle scores after this. Chapter 1149. Leah tapped Gu Mingming's shoulder lightly and said, I didn't shout at you yesterday, right? Gu Mengmeng knew that Leah might have seen through her prank long ago, so he was not as agitated as Elvis and she did not feel so guilty towards him. But due to the two-faced nature of her fox, Gu Mengmeng decided not to fight him head-on. She pulled her lower lip and flipped the wound out for Leah to see, saying, Guess why Elvis fought with you yesterday? Leah frowned when he saw the wound on the inside of Gu Mingming's mouth, as if a needle was pricking his heart. Hiss. I bit you. Gu Mengmeng hugged Lee's head and kissed him. Leah was first taken aback, but quickly turned the tables around and held the back of Gu Mingming's head to deepen the kiss. He even used the tip of his tongue to gently stroke the wound on the inside of Gu Mingming's lower lip. Yeah, it matched his teeth. When they ended the kiss, Leah was already very sure that he was the one who caused the wound. His heart ached for her, but Leah would not apologize to her like Elvis. Instead, he pinched her little nose and said, Tell me, what did you do to anger me to the point that I want to bite you, huh? Gu Mingming's heart ached. F******. She could not admit it. Gu Mengmeng instantly recalled the scene of Leah asking her if she liked him licking her with his drunken eyes. You're blushing. Leah looked at Gu Mengmeng with great interest. He squinted his eyes and sniffed with his nose, saying, Fox seductive fragrance. Gu Mengmeng, did I forget something extremely important? Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said, No, no. Leah held on to Gu Mingming's waist and lifted her up. Gu Mingming's lower abdomen was pressed tightly against Lee's body. Lee's smile was devilish and sly, the corners of his lips curved into an ambiguous arc, saying, You didn't. Why do I feel that you definitely did, and it's very important. Gu Mengmeng, shouldn't you help me recall it personally? With the last word, Leah blew lightly into Gu Mingming's ear, causing her to feel numb all over her body. Taking a step back, Gu Mengmeng bit the corner of her lips and decided to take revenge. Thus, he chuckled and said, I deserve to be bitten. Does seeing you cry count? Leah was taken aback and immediately denied, Impossible, I have never cried before. Elvis added, Yeah, I've never seen him cry before. Gu Mingming's shoulders shook as she chuckled. Then, she placed both her hands on Lee's shoulders and said with a heartbroken look, I'm going to die soon, right? Meng, am I going to die? Aw. Meng, I don't want to die yet. Leah was stunned. He stared at Gu Mengmeng for a moment before saying, You made it up, right? Gu Meng Meng looked straight into Lee's eyes, then smiled and shook her head. Leah took a deep breath, then held on to Gu Meng Meng's shoulders with both hands. Forget it. Forget everything that happened from last night to just now. I don't forget. Gu Meng Meng straightened her neck and thought to herself, who asked you to tease me? Humph humph, let's see who's better this time. Don't forget. Leah narrowed his eyes and smiled instead of getting angry. He said, and then, let's do something more memorable and erase the old memories. Leah and Elvis had been vegetarians for a long time. How would Gu Meng Meng not understand what Leah meant by something more memorable? But... Chapter 1150. Silly girl. Leah hugged Gu Meng Meng's waist and said softly, before we get the love of the sky, Elvis and I will not let you get pregnant. Elvis nodded and said, the snow is not thick enough, just in case, I will go guard the cave entrance. Leah hugged Gu Meng Meng in his arms and gave Elvis a thank you look. The two of them did not say anything else, they had a tacit understanding between each other. After Elvis left, only Gu Meng Meng and Leah were left in the cave. Leah hooked Gu Meng Meng's little chin, his long and narrow eyes filled with lust, and he said, because of you asking for a child, I endured for so long not daring to touch you. You have been torturing me so hard recently. How are you going to make it up to me, Gu Meng Meng clearly knew what was going to happen next, so she naturally did not dare to challenge Leah at this moment, or else with Lee's black-bellied character, he would make her unable to get off the ground for 3 days. Hooking her arms around Lee's neck, Gu Meng Meng smiled in an ingratiating manner and said with arched eyebrows and eyes, I will forget about you crying before, all right? Leah gritted his teeth and said, you are really good at spoiling the atmosphere. Do you think I will let you off just like that? Gu Meng Meng felt that she had been seen through, but she was not angry and just said shyly, don't torment me too much, I am scared. Once Gu Meng Meng gave in, Lee's heart itched even more unbearable. He flipped over and pinned Gu Meng Meng under his body, gently biting her left earlobe and said in a low voice, my little Meng Meng, do you still remember what you promised me previously? Gu Meng Meng's face was blank, it was obvious that she had completely forgotten about it. When we were in solder, you thought of all sorts of nonsense and caused your nose to bleed. Elvis and I were so scared that we almost wanted to settle down by the stream. At that time, you promised me that I could punish you however I wanted to. Now you want to go back on your word, huh? Lee's entire body was above Gu Meng Meng, giving off a strong sense of oppression and presence. Gu Meng Meng twisted her body, trying to fight for more space for herself but to no avail. Leah was bullying Gu Meng Meng with a force that could not be pushed away unless she hurt him, knowing that she could not bear to hurt him. Gu Meng Meng could not even breathe smoothly because of Leah. She blushed and said, how long has it been, you still remember it? Lee's kiss landed lightly on Gu Meng Meng's lips. He did not go deep and just kissed her lightly. I had originally forgotten about it, but you refused to change. I feel that if I don't teach you a deeper lesson and make you remember my sexual orientation, your little brain will always be filled with all sorts of nonsense. Gu Meng Meng's lips twitched. Fine, this time he was in the wrong again. Gu Meng Meng pulled out her arms and wrapped them around Lee's neck. She asked coquettishly, then tell me, how should I punish him? Do you like me? Leah suddenly asked. Gu Meng Meng took the initiative to offer her own lips and kissed Lee's Adam's apple. She said, I like you. Then, lick me. Leah smiled extremely devilishly, a teasing look in his eyes. Gu Meng Meng was stunned and blushed instantly. She said, aren't you drunk? Why do you still remember? Chapter 1151. Let's change another one. Gu Meng Meng begged for mercy. It's too embarrassing, I can't do it. Leah stuck out his tongue and licked Gu Meng Meng's left earlobe. Gu Meng Meng, do you know? I really like this mark. It's on your left ear and it's whispering sweet nothings to you on behalf of me every day. It's chattering non-stop. Then, Lee's kiss landed on Gu Mingming's eyes. Gu Mingming instinctively closed her eyes and allowed his lips to gently cover her eyes. Then, with a wet sensation, Gu Mingming knew that Leah had used his tongue to lick her eyes. I also like your eyes, they're so clean and transparent. The radiance in your eyes makes the stars in the sky dim and dull. When my shadow is reflected in those eyes, I feel that I'm the happiest person in this world. Lee's lips moved downwards and landed on Gu Mingming's little nose. He kissed it and then bit it lightly. The tip of his tongue brushed past it and Gu Mingming laughed out loud from the tickling. I like your nose, especially when you're so proud of yourself. It's so vivid that I can see your mischievousness and cuteness, so I can't help but want to pinch it. Oh, right, I also like the joyful smile on your face when you use it to smell the food I cooked for you. He then moved downwards and kissed Gu Mingming's lips lightly. He pecked and kissed 7 to 8 times before finally covering her lips deeply. His nimble tongue tangled with the tip of her tongue in her mouth and danced with hers. I also like your lips. When you laugh, when you're playing around, when you're aroused, even when you're scolding me, every note they make fascinates me, makes me sink, and makes me unable to control myself. No matter where I am, as long as this little mouth calls out to me, even if we're separated by mountains and oceans, I'll still fly towards you, disregarding everything. Holding Gu Mingming's little hand, he brought it to his lips and kissed it. Then, he bit each of her fingers and sucked on them gently. I like your little hands. When you wave at me, when you hug me, when you hold my hand, and when you twist my ear. It clearly transmitted your warmth to me and warmed my cold soul. Leah kissed Gu Mingming's entire body. Every time he kissed a spot, he would say a reason and a sentence of love. Gu Mingming's maiden heart exploded like popcorn and she felt as sweet as if she was soaked in honey. Meng, what about you? What do you like about me? Leah circled one arm around Gu Mingming's waist while the other supported the back of her head. With a flip, Gu Mingming laid on his chest. Like what I did just now, lick the place you like, let me know how much you like me, Perhaps it was because the atmosphere Leah had created was too perfect that Gu Mingming really felt that licking someone was not something that was embarrassing or unacceptable. Lying on Lee's chest like a cat, Gu Mingming kissed Lee's eyes lightly and said softly, I like your eyes. They slanted to the temples and hit thousands of ravines, but they gave me the exclusive love of the 3,000 worldly mortal world, just for my deep love. Chapter 1152. Holding on to Lee's hand, Gu Mingming kissed his palm. Then, she placed his large hand on her face and rubbed it gently. I like your hand too. It's slender and bony, with distinct joints. Time and time again, it would support my shoulders when I was helpless and tell me not to be afraid. No matter what happens, it would always prioritize protecting me and taking care of me. Gu Mingming mimicked Leah and kissed almost all over his body. Finally, she laid back on Lee's chest and kissed his heart. I like this heart the most. That's because I'm the only one in it. Lee's heart was lit up by Gu Mingming's words of love. The sparks connected and formed a prairie fire. Once it started, it could not be stopped. A round of pleasure could not be avoided. The ambiguity was scattered all over the floor and it evolved into a symphony of love and love. Leah had been sober for a long time. This time, he was a little more ruthless. Gu Mingming did it 3 times when she was awake and 2 more times after she fainted before he finally stopped. As a result, Gu Mingming was so exhausted that she slept till the sky turned dark. When she woke up, she did not even know how many days had passed. The bruises on her body had already disappeared and her fatigue was almost negligible. If Snake knew that the shocking recovery ability he left for her had been used in such a place, he would probably fly into a rage. "You're awake." Leah crawled beside Gu Mengmeng like a satisfied cat. His thick tail swayed to show his master's good mood. Gu Mengmeng stretched out her hand and Leah automatically placed his large tail into Gu Mengmeng's arms. Then, he poked Gu Mengmeng's warm and soft little face with his finger. "Are you hungry? The meat is already cooked and placed in the snow at the entrance of the cave to be frozen. You can eat it after heating it up." Gu Mengmeng shook her head. "I just woke up, I don't feel like eating." Leah nodded. "Then I won't eat it. You can touch me first." Gu Mengmeng paused. Did he start the topic of touch me after lick me? Gu Mengmeng was really scared. She did not know what shameful topic Leah would come up with next. She hurriedly let go of Lee's large tail and turned around. Gu Mengmeng wrapped her arms around Elvis's neck. "Hubby, I'm thirsty." Then, he took out a small bamboo cup and poured a cup of water for her. "I was afraid that you would get a nosebleed due to excessive internal heat, so I kept the water boiling on the fire in the cave. But it's a little hot. Drink slowly." Gu Mengmeng replied. She lifted the cup and started sipping the water. Leah knew that she was shy and did not continue teasing her. After all, Gu Mengmeng had not eaten before making love. Now that she had slept so much, her stomach must be empty. So Leah got off the bed and went to the entrance of the cave to retrieve the stewed meat that was frozen in the snow. He placed it in the pot and heated it up. Not long after, a fragrant aroma filled the air, making one's mouth water. Gu Mengmeng sat at the table and ate the meat. She drank 2 mouthfuls of water. It was bland and tasteless. She poured herself a glass of wine to go with her meal. After Elvis and Leah experienced their first hangover, their expressions changed. They wanted to run away from Gu Mengmeng the moment they saw the red liquid in Gu Mengmeng's cup. Gu Mengmeng took a sip. Then, she smacked her lips. "Meat stew goes with wine. The more I drink, the better it feels." Tisk, no one else can do this, aside from the topic. Hurry, there's no time. Hurry up and board the train. Look at the car plate, 4927799273. Get the train manager to check your ticket. Babies with more than 800 fans can enter the VIP cabin to enjoy the special treatment of the fragrant meat. Note, this train does not go to the kindergarten. Children who are going to the kindergarten, please do not sneak onto the train. This train does not go to the kindergarten. Children who are going to the kindergarten, please do not sneak onto the train. Chapter 1153. The 2 males looked at Gu Mengmeng in horror as she finished the entire glass of wine with gusto. They poured another glass as if they had not had enough. "Xiao Meng, are you feeling unwell anywhere?" Elvis clearly remembered that he felt lightheaded after drinking that glass yesterday. His brain was filled with all sorts of thoughts, but he could not sort them out. The large amount of fragmented information directly broke his nerves and he could not get up again. He could not remember how he got up and what he did after that. So, according to their body proportions, the same amount of wine that caused him such a heavy injury could be fatal to Gu Mengmeng, but why did Gu Mengmeng look like nothing happened to her? Just that her cheeks were red like a tempting apple. Gu Mengmeng knew that Elvis was scared by the wine. After the previous experience of teasing him to the point that he almost dragged Leah to die to atone for his sins, Gu Mengmeng did not dare to tease Elvis anymore. So she answered honestly, "Wine is a beauty tonic. The amino acids, minerals and vitamins contained in it can be absorbed directly. Drinking a little every day can help you beautify your skin, but..." Elvis frowned. After all, his first experience with wine was not that great. Gu Mengmeng knew what he was worried about. She smiled and said, "Everyone has different levels of allergy to alcohol. Yeah, for example you are the type of person who will pass out after 1 glass. Leah is slightly better. Although he only drank 1 glass, he at least knows what he did when he was drunk. As for me, I should be invisible in our world. But here. Gu Mengmeng lifted her left leg and stepped on the stool. She placed her left hand, which was holding the wine glass, on her arched knee. She lifted her chin and smiled in a bold and unrestrained manner. The emperor calls for me but refuses to board the boat. I call myself a god of wine. Actually, Elvis and Leah did not understand what she was saying. But Lee's gaze was shining and burning hot. It was the feeling of a cult member meeting their leader. Gu Mengmeng was taken aback. She looked at Leah and asked, why are you looking at me like that? That sentence just now was also part of the esoterica, right? Although it was a question, Leah used a definite tone. Gu Mengmeng was taken aback for a while. After thinking for a while, she recalled that Leah was the 9th highness of Sauter, and Sauter was a weird tribe that had worshipped 300 poems of the Tang dynasty for 1,000 years. Clearing his throat awkwardly, he nodded and said, yes, it should be. Leah knelt on one knee and held Gu Mengmeng's little hands with both his hands. He looked at Gu Mengmeng with eyes full of anticipation, as excited as a Samoyed that suddenly saw a meat bone after starving for a few days. His furry tail wagged furiously behind him and his longing gaze made Gu Mengmeng feel that rejecting him was a crazy thing to do. Clearing her throat, Gu Mengmeng forced herself to recite the entire poem again. Li Bai wrote 100 poems in one go, sleeping in a tavern in Chang'an City. The Son of Heaven called me, but I refused to come on board, calling myself an immortal of wine. Ah! Leah cupped his hands over his heart and frowned. He bit his lower lip lightly with a flushed face and exerted more force on his hand, as if his heart would jump out if he didn't do that. Gu Mengmeng held her forehead and asked, Are you all right? Chapter 1154. I've read Tang poems before but I've never seen you like this. Why are you, looking like you're in heat? Gu Mengmeng looked at Leah in confusion. Leah cupped his heart and said, I wasn't your male when you read Tang poems the last time. Gu Mengmeng thought for a while and nodded, yeah, right. The last time was when we confirmed the identity of the messenger in Sauter. You were a beast pet then. Leo looked at Gu Mengmeng while pressing on his heart. His slender fingers poked Gu Mengmeng's body to test the waters and then, he broke out into a smile. He looked up at Gu Mengmeng ambiguously and said, the contents of the esoterica are sacred and inviolable to the Snow Fox tribe. Every Snow Fox tribe member has to worship it after reading it. And you're an existence that's above the secret manual. But just 2 days ago, I pressed you down like this, like that. Ah. I feel like I'm blaspheming the gods, but this kind of feeling makes me very excited. Gu Mengmeng's face twitched and she put down her wine glass and leg. She placed her hand on Li's shoulder and looked at him with a dark face, saying, Leah, tell me. You're not a pervert. Leo was taken aback. His brows relaxed and he suddenly smiled. He stood up and pulled Gu Mengmeng under his body. He placed one hand on her back to prevent her from bumping into the side of the table and getting hurt, while the other hand supported on the edge of the table. Yeah, a perfect table thump. What if I am? Are you planning to abandon me, or sink into depravity with me? Gu Mengmeng was a little flustered by Li's thump. How should she put it? Once Leah started to attack, his aura was really not to be trifled with. Even if they had done all kinds of intimate things before, once Leah seriously flirted with her, his entire body would emit an irresistible hormone. He did not deny his dark side and could even display it completely in front of you to tell you, you're mine and you can't escape. Damn it. Holy sh*t whose husband was so handsome. Gu Mengmeng blushed and the fox's seductive fragrance in the cave that had yet to dissipate became even more intense. Leah smiled devilishly and hooked Gu Mingming's chin, saying, "You just woke up. If I do it again, can you take it?" Gu Mingming's face turned even redder. She shook her head and said, Don't. If you do it again, my bones will fall apart." Leah chuckled. "Then don't seduce me. Besides." As Leah spoke, he pinched Gu Mingming's little face and twisted it to the side. His line of sight landed on Elvis. Leah leaned forward and whispered into Gu Mingming's ear, "I'm a snow fox and I have a certain level of resistance towards the fox seductive fragrance. But Elvis can't resist your temptation." Gu Mengmeng looked at Elvis's forbearing look and felt even more embarrassed. She hadn't King done it on purpose, but Lee's words had triggered a reaction in her body. She hadn't expected herself to be so sensitive, hubby. Gu Mengmeng called out softly, feeling wronged like a cat that had been bullied. This sound was like adding fuel to the fire. Gritting his teeth, he grabbed Leah by the back of his neck and threw him aside in a parabola position. He hugged Gu Mengmeng in his arms and kissed her, saying, "Don't worry, I can hold it in. You haven't calmed down yet, I won't torture you now. Be good and eat, don't starve yourself." Chapter 1155. Based on the fact that Lee's adaptability to alcohol was better than Elvis's, and Elvis was stronger in terms of strength, even if Leah were to go crazy after drinking, Elvis would be able to suppress him. Hence, the two of them discussed and decided that Leah would be the one to taste the alcohol while Elvis would not touch a single drop. Gu Mengmeng said that there was no need for that. There were only a few barrels of wine and the only grapes she had seen so far were the stray beasts. Now that Peter was no longer the leader of the stray beasts, it was no longer convenient for them to pluck grapes from the stray beasts. So Gu Mengmeng wanted to drink sparingly. Even if it was not convenient for Elvis and Leah to drink, there was no need to force them. She could drink by herself, really. But Elvis and Leah did not agree. They had already determined that the wine was a dangerous item. Unless Leah personally verified that it was harmless, he would not allow Gu Mengmeng to touch it by herself. So Gu Mengmeng, who could drink, was forbidden from touching it, while Leah, who passed out after one glass, began his drunken rampage every day. The drunken Leah changed his demeanor. He chased after Gu Mengmeng while waving his little leather whip. He also bit his lower lip and removed his beast-skin dress to expose himself in front of Gu Mengmeng for her to ravage. He bared his fangs and brandished his claws, fought with Elvis, and cried bitterly as he hugged Elvis and talked about the past. Anyway, this winter was not a lonely one because of Lee's various tricks. However, even though Leah had finished a few barrels of wine, his alcohol tolerance did not improve at all. It was not that he did not improve at all, it was just that, from 1 glass to 1.5 glasses, this improvement left Gu Mengmeng speechless. Most people would have at least gone from 1 glass to a bottle after drinking for so long, right? She felt heartache for those barrels of wine, it was all for nothing. When the snow sealing the cave started to crack, Gu Mengmeng knew that this winter was over. Leaning in Elvis's arms, Gu Mengmeng looked at Leah, who was in a much better mental state after 2 to 3 days without a hangover after drinking all the wine. She smiled helplessly and said, "Do you still remember what you set up before winter after leading a befuddled life for the entire winter?" Leah held his forehead. His persistent hangover had caused him to not remember anything else other than that mating. It was all a mess of drunken rampages. The arrangements before winter. Closing his eyes, Leah organized his thoughts and said, "Meng, what do you plan to do after winter ends?" Aren't we already booked to go to the Maiden Mountains?" Gu Mengmeng countered. Leah chuckled. "What's there to fix? Everything depends on your mood." Gu Mengmeng chuckled. "So, there's a second option if I don't go to Maiden Mountains." Leah nodded and answered, "I spread 2 pieces of news before winter. One was that you personally told Maya about the Moda Mountains, and the other was that I accidentally leaked the heart of the desert. Gu Meng Meng was confused. But we don't even know where the heart of the desert is. It can't be an option. Li's lips curled into a beautiful arc. He looked thoughtfully at the cracked but not broken snow sealing the entrance of the cave. After winter ends, it will come to us on its own. Just like kiss of the ocean and soul of the forest. You mean coal? Gu Meng Meng frowned and asked. Chapter 1156. The heart of the desert could activate Elvis's Beast King bloodline, while the love of the sky could fulfill Gu Mingming's wish of giving birth to a nest of little foxes. Which one do you want first? Should she charge into the trap that Cole had set up in a hurry during the winter, or explore the unknown mystery of the Moda Mountains? Leah played with Gu Mingming's silky hair and said softly, the way the 16 valued females treated Maya, Cole must have known that you have discovered Maya's identity. So, should we try to cover things up, or should we try to cover things up? Between soul of the forest and love of the sky, which is the real smokescreen? Or could it be that the spirit of the rocky cliffs that we have never mentioned is the real target? Ha, Cole must be having a headache now. Gu Meng Meng smiled too. She had always thought that she had been played by Cole and had forgotten that her fox was the wisest person in the beast world. If they were to really compete in strategizing, her fox would definitely not lose to that cripple Cole. After all, using Maya given by Cole to create a Saint Nazir that Cole could not touch was the best proof. Li's fingers twirled around Gu Mingming's hair, playing with it tirelessly. His gaze was gentle and casual, as if he was comfortable with this kind of life. It was clear that he would have to face a great storm after the Han dynasty was broken, but his tone was calm and indifferent, as if he was casually discussing some gossip. It's impossible to use 3 routes during winter, so I guess that Cole will definitely throw out the bait after winter ends. Whether you want to take the bait or not, it's up to you. And I will be responsible for letting you escape unscathed. Gu Meng Meng chuckled and nodded. It would be more advantageous if they could obtain the heart of the desert first. If Elvis could also become a Beast King, then Qishuan's incident would not happen again. Because no matter what happened, Gu Meng Meng only needed to protect her little cub and leave the rest to Elvis to handle. But, how many unforeseen events would occur in this exchange? Gu Meng Meng turned around and asked Elvis, "Hubby, do you want to be the Beast King?" Elvis answered without hesitation, "Yes." Gu Meng Meng nodded. That's right, males' thirst for power was an instinct no matter which world they were in. "I want to become someone worthy of you," Elvis added, hugging Gu Mingming's little head and kissing it. Gu Mingming's heart warmed and she smiled softly. Everything her husband did was because of her. "All right, I got it." Gu Meng Meng chuckled and decided to play along. Cole couldn't figure out what she was planning, so how could she completely guess his plan? But since Leo was so confident, he decided to take a gamble. Their fox would definitely not lose to that cripple Cole when it came to scheming. As he thought about it, he actually felt a trace of anticipation. 3 days later, the snow covering the entrance of the cave melted. Gu Meng Meng, who was draped in the giant rabbit skin, was carried out of the cave by Elvis. Gu Mingming's little face was half hidden under the hood, revealing only her small mouth and delicate chin. Her entire face could not be seen clearly, but it gave off a sense of beauty that made one's imagination run wild. When she arrived at the platform of the deity's punishment, there were already 3 families gathered there. When they saw Gu Meng Meng, they all bowed respectfully. Chapter 1157. Elvis carried Gu Meng Meng straight up the platform of the deity's punishment. After he stood still, he howled into the sky, causing the birds in the forest to flap their wings and soar. Even the snow on the tree branches rustled and fell. After this howl, The entire sky above Saint Nazaire reverberated with the roars of wild beasts. Gu Mengmeng was shocked the first time she heard it. But after hearing it twice, she felt very excited. Pulling Elvis's arm, Gu Mengmeng asked softly, "Hunting, can you bring me along?" Elvis caressed Gu Mengmeng's hair, his gaze gentle and affectionate. His tone was full of indulgence and helplessness as he said, "I know you are very strong, but even so, I still don't want my female to face those bloody and violent scenes. Can you understand me?" Gu Mengmeng shrugged her shoulders and nodded. Actually, in Snake's memories, blood and violence were the basic norm. She was originally afraid of blood, but after inheriting over 1,000 years of Snake's memories, now, even if Gu Mengmeng had to personally dismember her prey, she would not hesitate. But Gu Mengmeng still decided to accept Elvis's heartache. Elvis kissed the top of Gu Mengmeng's head and did not say anything else. With the 16 valued females gathered, Gu Mengmeng waved her hand to summon Mandy to sit beside her. Then, she swept her gaze across them one by one and the corners of her lips lifted. "Liana, come here." Gu Mengmeng pointed at Liana, who had 2 more little lions beside her. Liana smiled sweetly and jumped down from the beast pet. With each hand, she carried her sons up the platform of the deity's punishment. Gu Mengmeng looked at the seat beside her and said, "Sit here." Liana was extremely happy. Ever since she knew she was pregnant, she had been looking forward to this day. Receiving the Great Messenger's appreciation and recognition was really a very, very glorious thing to her. Although she was just sitting quietly beside the Great Messenger, it was as if she could see her entire body glowing. "Page, come here too." Gu Mengmeng then pointed at a male from the Eagle Owl tribe standing beside her and a female with 6 little eagle owls hanging on his body. Page smiled happily and was also sent up the platform of the deity's punishment by her own male. Gu Mengmeng nodded. She was in a good mood. This was the 3rd winter since she came to the beast world. In the first year, she gave birth to Hedda's quadruplets. In the second year, she encountered too many disturbances which caused the females to be unable to conceive peacefully. As a result, not a single new life was born in Saint Nazaire last year. Although only these 2 females were pregnant this year, at least there were 8 more little ones, so the tribe would not be lonely anymore. Gu Mengmeng held Mandy's hand and gave her a warm gaze. Then, she stood up and announced, "From today onwards, Paige will replace Mandy as the first beauty of the beast world. Liana replaced me as the first beauty of Saint Nazaire. From then on the first day of winter every year, the males would go on their first hunt to compete for the title of the tribe's #1 warrior. The females will go through a beauty contest, and based on the total number of cubs, the most beautiful female in the beast world and the most beautiful female in the tribe will be chosen." Chapter 1158. As the previous most beautiful female in the beast world, Mandy was exceptionally generous at this moment. She stood up and walked to Paige. She held Paige's hand lightly and smiled. "In the future, the title of most beautiful female in the beast world will be yours. You must guard this glory well and always remember the Great Messenger's teachings. You must never disappoint the Great Messenger. The 16 valued females will be your backing and will always support and protect you. But at the same time, we are all your competitors. I will work even harder next winter and by then, I will definitely snatch back the title of the beast world's first beauty." Paige was a female from the deer tribe. Herbivores did not have the wildness of carnivores. She looked delicate and adorable. Her eyes sparkled when she smiled. She looked extremely innocent. She twisted her body and held Mandy's hand back. "Don't worry, I will not let everyone down. But I have already promised my Clark that I will give birth to a litter of fawns for him next year. So whether I can snatch back the title of most beautiful female in the beast world is still uncertain." The conversation between the two females was not too heated. Both of them behaved appropriately. This made Gu Mengmeng feel comforted. Although she grew up watching palace dramas, she really did not like the feeling of scheming against each other. It was the best situation for Gu Mengmeng that the females in the tribe could coexist peacefully. Great messenger. A soft and timid voice came from below the platform of the deity's punishment. Gu Mengmeng looked towards the source of the voice. It was Maya. Frowning slightly, Gu Mengmeng did not show any obvious hostility. She just smiled politely and asked, "What's the matter?" I'm pregnant too." Maya lowered her head shyly. She did not dare to look at Gu Mengmeng in the eyes. Gu Mengmeng stared at Maya's flat stomach in confusion. Maya saw that Gu Mengmeng was not saying anything and added, "It's a female cub." Gu Mengmeng raised her brows in surprise. She had placed her hopes on Sandy's stomach. But Sandy gave birth to 3 male children and Saint Nazir's first female cub was actually in Maya's stomach. It was ironic, but there was nothing she could do. Waving her hand, Gu Mengmeng said, "Then you come up too." Maya nodded obediently and allowed her partner to lift her onto the platform of the deity's punishment. Coming to Gu Mengmeng's side, Gu Mengmeng wanted to hold her hand but suddenly put it down. She frowned slightly and her gaze was cold. It's not easy to give birth to a female cub. Take good care of it. Gu Mengmeng turned around and shot Mandy a look, meaning that Maya was now pregnant with a female child. In that case, all actions against her would have to stop. After all, regardless of what happened to Maya, a female child was too precious. Mandy understood and nodded. Then, she whispered something into Liana's and Paige's ears. This was a secret code between the 16 valued females. To Maya, it was just an ordinary greeting. Only the 16 valued females understood what it meant. Alright, the beauty contest is over. Now, it's time for the males to show off their skills. As Gu Mengmeng said, she walked to Elvis and wrapped her arms around his neck to kiss him. She smiled and said, "Hubby, it's all up to you now." Chapter 1159. Roar. With a deafening roar, Elvis kissed Gu Mengmeng heavily again before transforming into a black wolf and leading the pack of beasts to attack. That roar shook the earth and the sky. The scene was so spectacular that it made one's blood boil. Gu Mengmeng supported her chin with her hand as she watched Elvis leave. She kept a smile on her face and clearly said, "My hubby is so handsome." After a long while, Elvis could no longer be seen. Gu Mengmeng then retracted her gaze and leaned into Li's arms. She looked at Maya and said, "Maya, you don't have to wait here today. Go back to the cave and have a good rest." Maya was very surprised. She blinked innocently at Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng smiled and said, "You are carrying the first female cub in Saint Nazir. It's very precious. I don't want anything to happen to you. Your top priority now is to protect the fetus and give birth to this female cub safely. You don't have to care about anything else, understand?" "All right." Maya answered obediently before letting her males carry her back. After Maya left, Gu Mengmeng and Leah exchanged glances but neither of them said anything. Mandy, Liana, and Paige sat on the platform of the deity's punishment to accompany Gu Mengmeng. The 3 of them kept glancing at Leah. Their gazes were not aggressive but still made one feel uncomfortable. It was like the first day of school when the girls gathered together to secretly discuss their female classmates who had gone for plastic surgery during the holidays. Gu Mengmeng held her forehead and said, "Just say what you want to say." This strange gaze makes one very uneasy. Mandy was the most familiar and closest to Gu Mengmeng among the 16 valued females. So Liana nudged her to ask the question on behalf of everyone. Mandy fidgeted but still took 2 steps forward and said that Leah seems to have become more good-looking after this winter. We want to ask, did something happen? Better looking. Gu Mengmeng turned back to look at Leah with a face full of suspicion. By right, every time the males of the Snow Fox tribe leveled up, there would be some changes to their looks. So when Leah leveled up from the 3rd level to the 4th, Gu Mengmeng clearly felt that he had become more handsome and less charming. But now, he had not leveled up, so how could there be any changes? Not good looking. Leah allowed Gu Mengmeng to size him up for a long time. Seeing that she did not show any signs of infatuation on her face, he was slightly dissatisfied. He pinched Gu Mengmeng's chin and shook it a few times. Then, he flipped his hair and opened his thin lips slightly, revealing his white teeth and the tip of his moist tongue. He leaned forward, almost touching the tip of Gu Mengmeng's nose, saying softly, "How about this? Does it look better? Or, do I have to take off this troublesome animal skin dress before you'll know I'm good-looking?" Gu Mengmeng blushed and slapped Lee's face. Why are you acting like a hooligan in broad daylight? You're my female. Flirting with you isn't called being a hooligan. After all, I have the responsibility to please you. With that, Leo leaned towards her, looking like he was going to eat her up in front of everyone. Ah! An irrepressible howl of excitement came from the 3 females who were hugging each other and jumping on the spot. Their eyes were filled with love. Chapter 1160. Gu Mengmeng sighed, pushed Leah away and sat up. While tidying her clothes, she said, "Restrain yourself, don't fool around outside. Look at them, they are treating us like AVs." But Leah did not let it go. He hugged Gu Mengmeng from behind, looking like a dodgy who could bring disaster to the country and people. He said in a charming manner, "But I can't control myself. Every time I see you, I want to hug you, kiss you, then eat you." The last 3 words were only audible to Gu Mengmeng's ears. Her ears were tickled by his breath and she pinched his waist, saying, "Eat me? Aren't you afraid of breaking your teeth? How can I bear to bite you? I always lick you, you know that, right?" As he said, Lee's tongue landed on Gu Mengmeng's left ear. It was sweet, moist and warm. Gu Mengmeng exploded and jumped up instantly. She pointed at Leah who was sitting at the same spot and smiling at her. Her face turned red but she could not say a word. Lee's gaze was crafty and his smile was full of teasing. It was obvious that he did it on purpose. She looked at the 3 females who were screaming just now. Now, they were pinching each other so hard that their arms were purple, but they were still smiling like idiots. Sighing, Gu Mengmeng face-bombed and said, "Are you trying to make me into everyone's fantasy partner?" Leah smiled but did not reply. He just opened his arms and called out with the most intoxicating smile and deep voice, "Mengmeng, come over and let me hug you." For some reason, Gu Mengmeng, who had just escaped from Lee's arms, leaned back into Lee's arms as if she was bewitched. But Lee's aura had changed unknowingly. When the 2 of them hugged each other, there was no longer the feeling of something that needed to be censored in the next second. Instead, it became pure and sweet. The 2 of them hugging each other was like a perfect painting and no one could bear to destroy this beauty. Leah kissed Gu Mengmeng's little face. Gu Mengmeng also recovered from the "come over and let me hug you" sentence. She chuckled and said, so cloying. "You don't like it?" Leah asked softly. Gu Mengmeng shook her head. "I like it. Then I will be sick of you forever." With that, Leah pecked Gu Mengmeng's face again. A little lion rolled and crawled to Gu Mengmeng's hand, sniffing Gu Mengmeng's body with its little nose, looking chubby and cute. Gu Mengmeng raised her arms to hug him but was held back by Leah. "Do you want to mate with him?" "Ha!" Gu Mengmeng's eyes widened as she stared at Leah as if he was a pervert. This bun had just been born, and the fastest way to move was to roll. Did she look like a pervert who would lay her hands on a baby bun that couldn't even stand up? Leah pinched Gu Mingming's nose as punishment and said, "If you hug him, you have to be responsible for him. If he had your scent on him, do you think any female would want him? Who would dare to snatch a male from the messenger of the beast deity?" No. Gu Mengmeng wanted to cry but no tears came out. When she said that Fei Rui was still a child, Leah and Elvis refuted her and she accepted it. After all, Fei Rui was already a second-level beast and was considered an adult. But this bun, heavens and earth, he was really a child, and the kind that was still in swaddling clothes. How twisted did she have to be lustful towards a bun? Chapter 1161. Liana. Gu Mengmeng called out, gesturing for the little lion's mother to carry the child away. But Liana smiled shyly and said, "Great messenger, if you like him, just keep him. Nelson and I are both perfect orcs. I was the first beauty in my original tribe, while Nelson was the first warrior in his original tribe. Our child will definitely be healthy and beautiful, and will become a powerful male in the future." Gu Mengmeng sighed and said, "I know he will be an outstanding child, but I am not a strange aunt. The next time I go to Sauter, bring the two brothers along with me. Sauter should have a female cub born this year. We must nurture our relationship from a young age." With that, Gu Mengmeng looked at Paige and said, "You should also come with me. After all, females are precious and rare. Try not to let them go to outsiders." Paige smiled and nodded and said, "I will listen to the great messenger's arrangements." Liana was also smiling. Her personality was different from Mandy's. She was the carefree type, and her likes and dislikes were all written on her face. If it wasn't for the fact that her family's males were strong, she wouldn't know how badly she would be bullied with her carefree attitude. Just like before winter, when the 16 valued females were discussing how to teach Maya a lesson, only Liana opened her mouth to criticize her. It was not that others did not stand by and do nothing, but that she was too powerful and others could not even interrupt. Gu Mengmeng actually liked this kind of straightforward person. Sometimes, she might not speak nicely, but at least you did not have to worry about her stabbing you in the back. Liana carried the little lion and sat cross-legged beside Gu Mengmeng. She tilted her head and looked at Leah, then asked, "Great messenger, you still haven't told me what happened to your family during winter. Look at how much prettier the witch doctor has become. His skin is so good that it is glowing." Gu Mengmeng then turned back to look at Leah carefully again. Yeah, his skin had really become better than before. It was just that she did not feel it because she was looking at him every day. But now that Liana mentioned it, Gu Mengmeng touched it. Tsk, it was as smooth as congealed fat. Tisk, Gu Mengmeng shook her head in disdain and said, "Can't you give females a way out? Why are you so good-looking as a man? You'll only like me if I'm good-looking." Leah chuckled as he understood the boasting and pride in Gu Mengmeng's disdain. He pinched her little face dotingly and felt that the more he looked at her, the more he liked her and the cuter she was. Gu Mengmeng could not suppress the smile at the corner of her lips. She turned her face towards Liana and did not look at Leah. She pretended that she did not see him and answered Liana, "It should be because he drank the grape wine. The few barrels of grape wine that I prepared before winter all went into his stomach. He became like this after playing a drunken game with Elvis and me for an entire winter." Grape wine. Liana's eyes sparkled as she looked at Gu Mengmeng and asked, "Then, do you still have that grape wine? Can you give me some too? I want to give some to my Nelson to make him look good too." It was beautiful. Was it really okay to use such adjectives on males? Was Gu Mengmeng the only one who found it weird? Sighing, Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said, "No more." Leah drank it all by himself. Oh. Leanna pouted her lips in disappointment and lowered her head. Digression, alright, my babies. Today's update has ended. Chapter 1162. Nelson is the strongest in your family, right? Leah stopped Gu Meng Meng, who was about to speak, and asked first. Leanna nodded her head as a reply. Leah said, then even if we still have wine, we cannot let him drink it. Leanna looked at Leah in confusion and tilted her head to ask, why? Leah recalled his crazy actions this winter and could not help but shake his head with a bitter smile. Drinking wine will cause him to lose control of his mind for a period of time, and he will not even know what he has done. If Nelson starts to act crazily after drinking wine, no one in your family can control him. It's fine if it's just once or twice, but for an entire winter, I suspect that before winter ends, all the other males in your family will be dead. So serious. Leanna stared at Leah with her beautiful eyes wide open. Leah nodded and said, if not, why am I the one drinking wine in our family and not Elvis? That's right, all the resources in the family should be enjoyed by the first partner after the females. If not for this side effect, Elvis should be the one who becomes beautiful after drinking wine. Thinking about this, Leanna believed Lee's words completely and nodded in agreement, saying, that's true, we cannot let Nelson drink it. The other males in our family cannot defeat him. Leanna twitched her lips and did not continue asking Gu Meng Meng about the wine. Obviously, other than Nelson, the other males in their family were not enough for her to ask for anything from the messenger of the beast deity. Gu Meng Meng was a little confused and asked, you want the wine just for Nelson? Have you never thought of drinking it yourself? Drinking it myself. Leanna looked at Gu Meng Meng in confusion and asked, why would a female like me want to become beautiful? Gu Meng Meng was speechless from the question and only felt that she was a little square. Wasn't it natural for women to love beauty? Didn't they not regret it even if they died for beauty? What did she mean by, why would a female like me want to become beautiful? Leanna looked at Gu Meng Meng's strange gaze and laughed awkwardly, saying, actually, I feel that our Nelson is quite good. He is strong and loyal. We have 2 sons now and we are already very happy. But he always feels that he is not good-looking enough and feels inferior, so I want to ask the messenger for some wine to make him good-looking so that he will not feel inferior. Males would feel inferior because they were not good-looking enough. How ugly would that be? Gu Meng Meng thought for a long time, but she could not remember how Leanna's lion looked like, so she just gave up. She would know when Elvis and the rest returned from their hunt later on. But, Gu Meng Meng smiled and looked at Leanna, asking, do you mind his inferiority? Leanna nodded and said, didn't I get a fire fox at the beauty pageant last year? Ever since we had that fox, our Nelson had been acting strangely. He often sighed and said that he wasn't good-looking enough. He was worried that I wouldn't like him in the future. In order to not let his imagination run wild, I only mated with him this entire winter in order to give birth to a litter of cubs for him. I originally thought that he wouldn't feel inferior anymore, but he actually asked me if I didn't owe him anything after I gave birth to the child, and if I would never love him again. Question. Chapter 1163. Leanna looked at Gu Meng Meng speechlessly, like a lost young girl waiting for her spiritual mentor to answer her questions, completely at a loss of what to do. Gu Meng Meng chuckled. The beast world and the ancient times were simply swapped versions of men and women. Palace scheming was all acted out by the males. It would be easier if she met a smart one, but this Leanna was obviously not on the same level as that fox in their family. The fire in the backyard was about to burn her eyebrows, but this silly girl was still clueless. Gu Meng Meng cleared her throat and waved at Leanna. Leanna shifted forward, getting closer to Gu Meng Meng, waiting for her to answer her questions with a face full of curiosity. Gu Meng Meng pretended to be mysterious like an expert on the relationship between the sexes. Actually, other than drinking, there's another way to make a male look better. What is it? Leanna's eyes immediately lit up, staring straight at Gu Mengmeng. That gaze, was exactly the same as when Gu Mengmeng saw a 3% increase in salary on the payslip before she transmigrated. Urgency, desire, excitement. Gu Mengmeng nodded mysteriously, then whispered into Leanna's ear, "The secret is to kiss his lips 3 times a day. Whisper a word of love into his ear, with a reason, the effect will be better. Persist for 81 days like this, and he will become better looking and more confident." Really? Leanna said it as a question, but her tone was firm. Gu Mengmeng could even see the stars shining above her head and her eager eyes. Gu Mengmeng nodded, "But this method can only be used once per female. Once you break it in the middle, it will not be effective anymore. So you have to persist for 81 days. All right, I understand. Thank you, mighty messenger." Leanna swore solemnly, almost kneeling down and kowtowing in worship. Gu Mengmeng smiled and waved her hands. Just as she was about to ask about that fox and their family, Leanna beat her to it, looking up at Gu Mengmeng and asking, "But, how long is 81 days? Holding her forehead, Gu Mengmeng had forgotten that females in the beast world could not count. 81 days was equivalent to 3 months, if she calculated it this way. Gu Mengmeng chuckled. "Counting from today until the end of the monsoon season, it will be 81 days. Oh, okay, I understand." Leanna clenched her fists and gestured in front of her chest. She made a gesture that seemed like she was cheering them on. Then, she picked up her 2 sons and sat on the edge of the platform of the deity's punishment. She looked at the direction that the hunting team would definitely pass by when they returned. She muttered to herself, "My sons, when your father returns, your mother will pounce on him. If he dares to resist, you two will help me hold him down. Do you hear me?" "Ao, ao, ao," Little Bun responded in a childish voice. Gu Mengmeng shook her head, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Which male would resist being pounced on by his own female? Moreover, Nelson was a level 4 orc. If he wanted to resist, how could these 2 little fellows, who could not even stand steadily, hold him down? This Leanna was really a clown. Others might believe her words, but Leah knew that she was trying to fool them again. Chapter 1164. Every year's first hunt was an important ritual. The males would fight with the most ferocious beasts and bring back the fattest prey for the tribes which doctored to sacrifice to the beast deity. But Saint Nazir was slightly different. Because of Gu Mengmeng's existence, the fattest prey was directly offered to Gu Mengmeng herself. Gu Mengmeng was happy to see this happen. After all, Saint Nazir was under her protection. Her father was busy watching television dramas every day, and even if the tribe really offered him food, he would not be able to eat it. It was not a bad idea to let her own daughter take advantage of it. When the running footsteps shook the ground, Gu Mengmeng knew that the warriors of the tribe had returned. The heroic aura that assaulted her made her feel excited. Gu Mengmeng stood up to welcome them. From afar, she saw Elvis carrying a giant beast and walking towards her in a heroic manner. As Elvis's footsteps got closer, the smile on Gu Mengmeng's face became more obvious. Elvis placed the giant beast on the platform of the deity's punishment for Leah to handle. The moment the beast was placed down, Gu Mengmeng had already crashed into Elvis's arms. Elvis lowered his head and kissed her hair. He pulled her into his arms and said with a voice full of smiles, "Did you miss me?" "Yeah," Gu Mengmeng admitted without any hesitation. Elvis felt a sweetness in his heart. He pinched Gu Mengmeng's little face and kissed her lips deeply. After a long while, he let go and said, "I miss you too. I miss you so much that I go crazy the moment I see you. Why don't we let someone else be the tribe leader next year?" Then I won't have to lead the tribe to hunt and stay by your side. Gu Meng Meng chuckled and bit Elvis's chin, saying, "Fatuous ruler. I will be whatever you say." Elvis's indulgence towards Gu Meng Meng had no bottom line. As long as she was happy, he would do anything. Gu Meng Meng lightly hammered Elvis's chest and said, "Let's get down to business first. Announce this year's #1 warrior." Elvis nodded and carried Gu Meng Meng in his arms. Although winter had ended, it was still cold. He was unwilling to let Gu Meng Meng stand on the ground, afraid that she would catch a cold. Moreover, he missed her so much that he was going crazy after not seeing her for half a day. Taking a deep breath, Elvis took 2 steps forward and said, "Based on the results of the first hunt, I announce that this year's #1 warrior of the tribe is Nelson." Roar! All the beasts cheered. Obviously, Narsen deserved the title. Before the roar could finish, it came to an abrupt halt. Everyone looked at Liana, who had leaped down from the platform of the deity's punishment, as if their acupoints had been sealed. They were unable to react in time. That was because Liana had transformed into a half-orc and pounced down. Her 2 hands had turned into sharp claws that pressed down on Nelson's shoulders while her 2 legs were wrapped around Nelson's waist. Her eyes were so fierce that it seemed as though she wanted to start a fight with Nelson. Nelson had a dumbfounded expression on his face as he stared at Liana, who had suddenly pounced on him. He had no idea what she was going to do. "Don't move!" Liana shouted. Gu Meng Meng face-bombed and thought to herself, "Oh my god, is this the seductive female from the beauty pageant? Are you sure you're not robbers from Liangshan?" Why did she have a feeling that Liana's next sentence would be, "Young master is so handsome, why don't you be my husband?" The feeling of Chapter 1165. "I love you," Liana said with her eyes wide open. To be honest, this sentence did not sound like a confession, but more like extortion. If the words "I love you" were changed to "hand over the money," there would be no sense of awkwardness. Nelson was taken aback for a moment, before his face blushed, as if he was shy. He swallowed his saliva and nodded in response. Liana thought for a moment. Gu Meng Meng had mentioned that it would be better if she added a reason when she said she loved him. So she frowned, rolled her eyes and thought for a moment, before saying, "Because you received the title of the strongest warrior in the tribe today, so I love you." Nelson nodded his head stiffly and said, Next year. I will try to get first again next year." "Tisk, I told you not to move," Liana roared. Nelson immediately froze, as if his acupoints had been pressed. "Not moving, not moving." Liana then nodded her head in satisfaction, then said, "Now, I am going to kiss you." "Aw." Nelson's eyes were filled with worry. Liana was too strange today. Although he hoped that Liana would like him a little more even in his dreams, he could not adapt to her sudden passion. "What aw? You are my male, can't I kiss you?" Liana glared at him, seemingly displeased. No. I can kiss you, of course I can kiss you." Just now, the warrior who did not even take half a step back in the face of a hungry tiger became a Hello Kitty in front of his own female. Hearing Nelson's words, Liana heaved a sigh of relief and said, Then listen carefully, I am going to kiss you now, and I want to kiss you 3 times. All right. Liana pressed Nelson down and kissed him 3 times, then nodded her head in satisfaction and said, "I want to kiss you 3 times tomorrow and the day after. You have to automatically appear in front of me every day, do you hear me?" Nelson's face was extremely red, not from shyness, but from an indescribable agitation and excitement. He could not explain what was going on, just that his heart was pounding and his mind was blank. "TSK, did you hear me?" Liana urged. Nelson nodded his head blankly and said, I heard you. Yes. Lionel let go of Nelson's hand in satisfaction. She then dusted off her claws and stood up from Nelson's body. Gu Meng Meng could not help but want to clap for Liana. Sister, you are so domineering and mighty. It turns out that he didn't go all out when he was fighting Maya by the stream that day. The barbaric version of My Barbarian Girlfriend. TSK, Dodo, Salonghe. Leah placed one arm on Elvis's shoulder and played with Gu Mingming's fingers with the other. He looked at the crowd casually and whispered into Gu Mingming's ear, should we take this chance to knock him down a peg? Gu Mengmeng followed Li's gaze and looked down. Among the orcs, there was a male with fiery red hair who was staring coldly at Liana and Nelson. She chuckled and raised her voice, saying, Warriors, you don't have to be so envious. As long as you work hard to improve your strength and display your best side in front of the female, I believe that the one you admire will definitely be able to see it. But there is one thing I need to make clear. That is, in the Saint Nazir tribe, I will definitely not allow anyone to frame the first partner and shake the unity of the tribe. Once I find out that someone has any thoughts that he should not have or coveted a position that he should not have, I will not let him off easily, understand? Aside from the topic, Gu Mengmeng did not interfere in this matter because it was someone else's business. The importance of the first partner's authority had been mentioned previously when Leah and Elvis were putting on an act to deceive Cole. Once another partner used the female's love to overthrow the first partner, countless others would follow suit, especially in a messenger tribe like Saint Nazir. If such a thing happened, it would definitely have a butterfly effect on the beast world, so Gu Mengmeng had to interfere. Chapter 1166. The sacrificial ceremony was long and boring. Gu Mengmeng lost interest after watching for a while. She might as well let Elvis bring her back to the cave for an afternoon nap and come out in the evening for the night campfire party. Due to the change of the first beauty of the tribe and the first beauty of the beast world, the seats on either side of Gu Mingming's campfire naturally became Liana's and Paige's seats, while Mandy sat beside Paige, which was considered a seat closer to Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng was originally worried that Mandy would feel uncomfortable after falling from the position of the beast world's first beauty, but, Mandy adopted a little eagle owl from Becky's family. She said that as long as the little guy successfully evolved, even if it was only a half-orc, she would mate with it. If the evolution failed, then it would stay by her side as a pet beast. Hence, Gu Mingming's heart was in a mess and she felt like she was square. In the future, he might not be able to look Mandy in the eye. Child foster husband. What a perverted and weird auntie. You don't have to be so surprised. Leo waved his tail and tore off a piece of freshly roasted meat, sending it to Gu Mingming's mouth. If it wasn't for you protecting them so tightly, Heda and his brothers would have been snatched away to be reared the moment they appeared. Gu Mengmeng stared at Leah in disbelief with her beautiful eyes, then at Elvis. Elvis shrugged and said, the females among the stray beasts do not receive such treatment. Heda and his brothers are the first batch of cubs in Saint Nazir. In other words, he didn't know the market rate either. Leah chuckled. Let's not talk about the others, but Sandy already had designs on the 4 little ones. In the end, before she could even open her mouth, you killed her with the word mother-in-law. That's why she didn't bring it up. Ha! Gu Mengmeng was even more shocked. Seeing her shocked expression, Leah could not help but feel amused. How could someone be so cute? I really want to take a bite and taste what she is made of. Pinching Gu Mingming's little face, Leah said, Bo told me, Sandy said she wanted to raise Heda. But that was only in the beginning. Later on, I gave up on the idea. Gu Mengmeng felt like she was in a mess. Luckily Sandy was still upright, or else, thinking about how many times he had left the 4 little ones to Sandy to take care of, it was like pushing children into a fire pit. Fortunately, the fire pit had a conscience. Otherwise, this kid. Oh my, just thinking about it gave me goosebumps. Not only that, Leah smiled wickedly, like a snake tempting Eve to eat an apple. He said seductively, Sandy still wants to gift one or two of the 3 Joseph brothers to you. What? Gu Mengmeng felt that she had used up all the exclamation marks in her life today. Quick, bring me my quick-acting heart reliever. Gu Mengmeng held onto her chest, looking like she could not take it anymore. Leah smiled brightly, pinching Gu Mengmeng's little face and shaking it left and right, saying, Elvis and I have already blocked it for you, so you can save on your quick-acting heart reliever pill. Thank goodness, thank goodness. Gu Mengmeng heaved a sigh of relief. Leah replied, Aren't you going to ask me how I blocked it? Gu Mengmeng looked up. How? Leah smiled ambiguously and said, I told her, if she dares to stuff love rivals into my house, I will castrate all the males in her family, including the 3 Joseph brothers. Gu Mengmeng hugged her shoulders and exclaimed, Your jealousy is too strong. Chapter 1167. Gu Mengmeng hugged Lee's neck and kissed him, saying, I don't blame you, you care about me, why would I blame you? But can you be gentler in the future? Sandy is timid, don't scare her. She's timid. Ha ha. Leah laughed coldly, saying, I think she has a lot of guts. Other than Sandy, there's probably no one else in the beast world who dares to force her way in to fight for the love of Elvis and me. Gu Mengmeng chuckled, thinking about it, other than Sandy, no one else would dare to be so brazen in front of Elvis and Leah. Ha, I remember, she scolded you and Elvis before. Gu Mengmeng chuckled. Lee's eyes drooped, saying, Yeah, only 2 people have scolded me like this in my life, one is you, the other is her. You scolded me, I admit defeat, who asked me to like you. But she scolded me, after scolding me, I still have to thank her gratefully, TSK, why do I feel so cheap? Gu Mengmeng knew that Leah was referring to the time before they became partners, when she did not allow him to return to the cave. Sandy knew that Gu Mengmeng was in a bad mood, so she came to visit her, then saw Leah lying on a tree at the edge of the territory, scolded him, and finally said, You deserve it, then after entering the cave, put in all sorts of good words for Elvis and Leah in front of her. Elvis tightened his grip on Gu Mengmeng, then looked at Leah and said, You were only scolded, I was pointed at my nose and scolded, She even flashed her claws in front of me. I've never been so useless in my life, being suppressed by a female until I was helpless. Gu Mengmeng was stunned for 2 seconds, then she remembered that Elvis and Leah were not talking about the same thing. He should be talking about the time Cole cast a bewitching spell on Sandy, causing her to be confused and treat Cole as her partner, thinking that Elvis was covering up for Cole, so she pointed at his nose and scolded him. Sandy was tricked by Cole that time, it wasn't intentional. Moreover, she did it to protect me. Hubby, don't hold a grudge. Elvis lowered his head and kissed Gu Mengmeng's little face. I endured it because I knew she was protecting you. Otherwise, I would have cut out her gallbladder and given it to you to go with your wine. Ah! Gu Mengmeng gave a look of disdain. Elvis squeezed Gu Mengmeng's little hand and said, Wolves are very vengeful animals. So, if one day she doesn't matter to you anymore, remember to tell me. I have to get back at her. Gu Mengmeng smiled and hugged Elvis's waist. She placed her little face on Elvis's chest, feeling extremely blissful. She understood Elvis's words. Elvis was saying, Sandy is someone you care about, so no matter what she does, I will endure it. Love me, love my dog. That was probably it. But thinking about Sandy, that little bear bun, who was usually so cowardly, actually dared to show his claws in front of Elvis and Cole that time, it was as if he had to risk his entire family's lives to avenge her. Silly girl, how could Gu Mengmeng not care about such a best friend? The atmosphere was just right. An eagle owl flew over at a low altitude and stopped in front of Gu Meng Meng. He bowed and said, "Great messenger, the monkey from the previous time is here again." Monkey? Gu Meng Meng was stunned for a moment, unable to recall who it was. But Leah held on to Gu Meng Meng's little hand and smiled. "Let him in, I want to see what kind of answer he has prepared." Aside from the topic. Chapter 1168. The eagle owl glanced at Gu Meng Meng. Seeing that Gu Meng Meng did not object, he then spread his wings and flew off. Not long after, the eagle owl brought Joshua back. Gu Meng Meng then remembered that this was Frank's witch doctor, a first-level orc from the ape tribe, who wanted to join the tribe before winter. Gu Meng Meng remembered that Leah had patted something on his shoulder and said that if he could find all the ingredients, he would allow him to join Saint Nazir as a witch doctor. Gu Meng Meng had asked Leah what he had patted on his shoulder, and Leah had only said mysteriously that he would not let someone who coveted Gu Meng Meng wander around Saint Nazir. But he did not tell Gu Meng Meng what exactly he had patted on his shoulder. After knowing about Maya's situation, Gu Meng Meng had placed all her attention on Maya. Moreover, Leah had been drunk for the entire winter, so Gu Meng Meng had forgotten about this matter. Now that Joshua was standing in front of Gu Meng Meng again, Gu Meng Meng was suddenly a little curious. Joshua spread out a piece of beast skin. There were 4 small pieces of beast skin wrapped in it. He opened them one by one and showed them to Leah. Yellow roots, chili, snake scales, and salt crystals. "I have found all 4 ingredients that you patted on my shoulder." Leah held his cheek and pinched the item that Joshua presented with his index finger. He smiled nonchalantly. "This item is only half correct." "Impossible," Joshua said with certainty. "Mighty Leah, you are the favored son of the deity. You cannot deny it." Leah chuckled in an evil and arrogant manner. "If I deny it, what can you do to me?" Joshua clenched his fists tightly and could not say a word. He was just a first-level orc, what could he do to him? Back then, when he and Elvis fought for territory alone, even Franks could not stop them and allowed them to tear off a large piece of the tribe's territory. Now, not only had Leah leveled up to a 4th-level orc, he was also the male of the messenger of the beast deity. What could an orc like him, who was stuck at the 1st level, do to him? There was nothing he could do. Leah swayed his tail and continued. "But, my Meng Meng still cherishes this face of mine, so I have to be careful when I throw it." Joshua lifted his head and looked at Leah with an urgent gaze. Leah picked up the pepper and said, "Although the quality is not as good as the ones I picked, at least the species is correct. So I'll give you a pass for these 2. With that, he used his finger to pick up the salt crystal and chuckled. "This salt crystal, you stole it from the salt lake in Saint Nazir, didn't you?" Joshua lowered his head in embarrassment. The Beast World Lord took things by force, strength was everything. If it was a robbery, then it was justified. But stealing was a very dishonorable thing to do. But the truth was, this piece of salt crystal was indeed stolen by him when the people of Saint Nazir were busy preparing food for the winter. Joshua nodded with much difficulty. "Yes." Leah smiled as he placed the salt crystals down, then said, "I did pat salt on your shoulder, but it's not lake salt, it's sea salt ground from sea salt crystals. You represented Frankston to collect water, so you should know that Saint Nazir once had a mermaid, right? Because of that fish, the well had almost been destroyed." As a witch doctor, Joshua was naturally aware of it. Chapter 1169. Not long after, Leah retrieved the salt crystals that Fei Rui had left behind from the cave. As there was only 1 piece of sea salt and it was definitely not enough to marinate meat, Leah had not used it much. He only used it occasionally when cooking fish in the cave. He scraped off a little with his fingernail and showed it to Joshua. Joshua carefully compared it to the lake salt he brought with him. Be it the color, the size of the particles, or even the color and smell, they were different to a certain extent. Joshua hung his head and said dejectedly, I will make a trip to the seaside and retrieve the sea salt from the mermaid tribe. Please give me another chance. Leah shook his head and said, the sea salt is not the key is this. Leah pinched that piece of snake scale through the beast's skin and clicked his tongue. What I gave you was a deity's punishment scale that was strengthened by the beast king's fury. You actually used a wild beast's snake scale to brush me off. Ha, no matter how ignorant you are, you can't pass off tree bark as a lingji, right? Joshua looked at Leah in shock. A deity's punishment scale enhanced by the beast king's fury. He understood the deity's punishment scale. It meant that males who did something wrong would kneel on the platform of the deity's punishment for 3 days and 3 nights. If they could not endure it, it meant that the beast deity was unwilling to forgive them. Such people would be punished by the tribe's witch doctor. They would peel off their skin and make it into a flag to be placed on the highest mountain peak of the tribe to express their repentance to the beast deity. But the beast king's fury, that was something that only existed in legends. The beast king was the beast deity's most beloved child. He was bestowed with the power of a demigod by the beast deity and could command the entire tribe. Any disobedience was equivalent to offending the deity, and it was an unforgivable sin. The current beast king was Gu Meng Meng, but she was not from the snake tribe. Wait a minute, so the scale on his shoulder was the deity's punishment personally executed by the mighty Snake King Valley when he was still alive. After Joshua understood, he immediately lowered his body. Even if he had to dive into the sea to search for salt crystals, he was willing to try. Even if he could not swim, he would still be able to think of a way. But that mighty one was already dead, and he would never be able to obtain another deity's punishment scale enhanced by the beast king's fury. Gu Meng Meng tugged at Li's beast skin skirt and asked, the scale you are talking about, could it be Ellie? Leah nodded. It's her scales. I went back to pick it up when you were unconscious. Gu Meng Meng felt slightly disgusted and asked, why did you pick it up? Leah said as if he was intentionally teasing Gu Meng Meng, didn't you say that her snake skin was smooth and felt good? I was thinking of picking them up piece by piece to see if I could piece them together and give them to you. Gu Meng Meng stiffened her neck and said, no, disgusting. Throw it away quickly. Leah pinched Gu Meng Meng's little nose and shook it lightly. He smiled. Silly girl, you already have snake skin on your body. Why would you still want his inferior snake skin? I snatched it back because it's a rare medicinal herb that can save my life at a critical moment. Gu Meng Meng looked at Leah doubtfully, with an expression that said, you're bluffing me. Leah held Gu Meng Meng's little face and kissed it. Don't worry, I will keep it at a safe place and won't let you see it. Don't make me throw it away, alright? Up to you. Gu Meng Meng thought that Leah naturally had his reasons as he was a witch doctor. It would be fine as long as he was not an eyesore in front of her. Chapter 1170. Leah glanced sideways with a, you haven't left yet. He looked at Joshua and paused for 2 seconds. Then, he suddenly smiled. Releasing Gu Meng Meng's hand, he straightened his body and kept his joking expression. His smile instantly turned into a refined and calm one, displaying the modesty and politeness of the great witch doctor of Saint Nazir. He asked, tell me, what kind of sacred item is it that has the same value as the deity's punishment scale that is strengthened by the beast king's fury? Joshua wanted to look straight at Leah, but Li's aura was too strong and the pressure was too heavy. He could not even hold on for a second before he gave up. He lowered his head, clenched his fist and frowned. The heart of the desert. The moment he said those 4 words, Joshua could clearly feel the change in the atmosphere around him. And this change originated from the 3 people in front of him. Gu Meng Meng and Leah exchanged glances and the corners of their lips curled up in a mocking smile. Lee's prediction was really accurate. Cole had indeed used an entire winter to set up a trap. But he clearly knew that Gu Meng Meng already knew Maya's identity, so the information he told Maya was most likely a smokescreen. But given Lee's personality, he would definitely have thought of the same thing, so it was highly possible that he did the exact opposite. But he still sent the second option outside of Moda Mountains, a game between 2 foxes. Resting her chin on her palm, Gu Meng Meng finally looked straight at Joshua. A faint smile hung on her lips but did not reach her eyes. Gu Meng Meng said softly, "I once promised that the person who found the 7 treasures could fulfill any wish. You already have the heart of the desert, isn't it a little too wasteful to exchange it for a spot to enter St. Nazir?" Just hearing Gu Meng Meng's voice made Joshua's heart beat extremely fast. All the blood in his body surged and his palms were covered in sweat. Pinching his fingers, Joshua said, "I don't have the heart of the desert, I only have news about it. So I don't dare to ask for a wish. As long as I can use it to replace the scale in Sir Lee's question, I will be satisfied." Gu Meng Meng's lips twitched. "You are not greedy." Gu Meng Meng glanced sideways at Leah and asked with a smile, "You were the one who came up with the question, you decide, can we change it?" Leah hooked his arm around Gu Meng Meng's arm naughtily and rested his chin on Gu Meng Meng's smooth shoulder. "How would I have any ideas in front of you? Isn't it just whatever you say?" Gu Meng Meng smiled lazily. She poked Lee's brows and pushed him away from her shoulder. Then, she wrapped her arms around Elvis's neck and gestured for him to leave. Elvis carried Gu Meng Meng and stood up, giving Oratin and Barit a look. The 2 of them nodded in tacit understanding and stayed behind to host the night campfire party, while Elvis and Leah brought Gu Meng Meng away. When they passed by Joshua, Gu Meng Meng said softly, "Let's talk somewhere else." "Yes." Joshua didn't dare to raise his head. He felt like his heart was beating too fast. The person he had been dreaming about was just inches away from him, but he didn't even have the courage to lift his head to look at her. He could only follow her silently. "We're not going back to the cave, we're going to Lee's place." Perhaps it was because she had developed territorial awareness after staying in the beast world for a long time, or maybe it was because her sense of smell had become too sensitive after inheriting Snake's ability. Anyway, she didn't like the smell of strangers staying at her place now, especially those who had ulterior motives and were involved with Cole. Aside from the topic, that's the end of today's update, babes. See you tomorrow. Chapter 1171. Leah and Elvis didn't have any objections. After all, Lee's place used to be used for meetings. It was just that after Gu Meng Meng appeared, they had gotten used to surrounding her and never returned. However, Lee's place was rather special. Even if Leah no longer stayed here, no one in the tribe dared to lay their hands on this place, so it had always been left unused. Gu Meng Meng sat at the entrance of Lee's cave. She had no intention of entering. Even if Leah no longer stayed here, she didn't like anyone related to Cole entering. Elvis and Leah sat beside Gu Meng Meng. They remained silent and let her make the decision. Gu Meng Meng leaned back in Elvis's arms. She looked at Joshua. "All right, there's no one else here. You can speak now." Joshua lowered his head. "Cole was the one who told me about the heart of the desert." Gu Meng Meng raised her brows. She didn't expect Joshua to tell her so directly. After all, Fei Rui had come here because of Cole's scheme. Fei Rui still didn't know that it was Cole who had the information about the kiss of the ocean. After that, Cole didn't appear personally at the soul of the forest. Instead, he instructed Dora to lead Leonard by the nose. This time, he actually appeared personally to tell Joshua about the heart of the desert. It seemed like Lee's guess was right. It was too hasty for Cole to use the entire winter to set up a plan. Was that why he was so perfunctory? Or, since she already knew it was him, why not just hide it? Then why did she still need to borrow Joshua's words? Couldn't he just tell her directly? Joshua clenched his fists. I want to join Saint Nazir because I like the great messenger. I want to woo her. So, I cannot lie to you. I cannot hide anything. Even if I am standing in front of you right now, we still seem to be separated by a galaxy. I don't want to use lies to widen this galaxy. So, I will tell you everything I know honestly. I will use this method to prove my loyalty to you. Upon hearing Joshua's words, Gu Mengmeng instinctively glanced at Leah. Then, she asked Joshua with a chuckle, Did Cole teach you to say that? Joshua shook his head and said, I told him that I would tell you the truth. He didn't say anything. Leah sighed and acted pitiful in front of Gu Mengmeng as if he was begging for mercy. I know I was wrong to hide many things from you in the past, but it has already been more than 2 years and you still want to bring up the past. Gu Mengmeng raised her head and said, Why? You can't flip it. Leah tapped Gu Mengmeng's little nose helplessly and indulgently. Yes, 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 you are my little princess. How can I reject anything you want? Gu Mengmeng chuckled and ignored Lee's flirting. She looked at Joshua and said, All right, I got it. Go on. How much do you know about the heart of the desert? Or rather, how much did Cole tell you? Joshua nodded and replied, The heart of the desert is in the Mecca Desert, guarded by a rank 5 giant scorpion. It was dry all year round, and not even a blade of grass grew there. It was a vast sea of sand. Without someone familiar with the terrain to lead the way, it was basically impossible to get out after entering. So, Chapter 1172. Joshua shook his head and said, It's not me. I really want to request to go with you, but I know that with my abilities as a first-level beast, I will only be a burden. So, I will not trouble the great messenger. I will stay in Saint Nazir as the witch doctor when you and Sir Leah are not around to guard your tribe and wait for your return. Gu Mengmeng thought that there were many places she had to visit in a year. With Heda and Jiaoyu in Sauter, she had to visit her 2 sons and Sandy every year. Zacharias had Qixien and Kanwu, so she had to take some time out every year to visit them and Natalie. As the saintess of the Snake King Valley, even if she did not have to return every year, she had to go back occasionally to show her face and let everyone know that she was still alive and remembered the Snake King Valley. This was to deter people from sneaking into the Snake King Valley during the winter to plot against them. Therefore, based on this calculation, there was not much time that she could stay in Saint Nazir in a year. There were 16 valued females in Saint Nazir and now there were 8 more cubs. They really needed a witch doctor. But, could anyone who had ties with Cole be trusted? Alright, from today onwards, you are the witch doctor of Saint Nazir. Leah hugged Gu Mengmeng's shoulders and agreed readily. Leah. Gu Mengmeng frowned. She did not blame him for making the decision on his own, but she did not trust the person Cole had sent over. Leah hooked Gu Mengmeng's little chin and smiled as if he was asking for her affection. With someone holding the title of Saint Nazir's witch doctor, I can be free and focus on taking care of you. Isn't that good? My queen. But Gu Mengmeng's heart itched. She could never be immune to Lee's teasing. Leah pecked her lips lightly and said, This fellow wants to cross the Milky Way to come to your side. He will not do something so foolish as to drown himself halfway. If he really does it, don't worry, Elvis and I have ways to make him beg for death. Gu Mengmeng thought to herself, If Cole really made use of Joshua to bring disaster to Saint Nazaire, not to mention torturing Joshua, even torturing Cole would be useless. As if he had seen through Gu Mingming's thoughts, Leah gently bit her left earlobe and said, "In the past, in order to compete with Cole, I placed great importance on Saint Nazaire. Because of this, I almost lost you. But now, Saint Nazaire is nothing in my eyes. Do you think Cole still has the interest to destroy a tribe that I don't even care about?" Gu Mengmeng thought about it. If there was no goalkeeper, would there still be the desire to shoot? He chuckled and said, "I understand. I'll listen to you." "Good girl," Leah praised Gu Mingming's forehead, before whispering into her ear, "From today onwards, I'm no longer the witch doctor of Saint Nazaire, but the Ninth Highness who belongs to you alone." Leah nodded. Gu Mengmeng chuckled. She wrapped her arms around Li's neck and kissed his face. "Long live your highness." The two of them looked at each other and smiled. Leah said, "So sensible." Gu Mengmeng poked Li's chest before returning to her original position. She kept her playful smile and looked back at Joshua. "Witch doctor, can you tell me now? Who is the person who can lead the way?" Chapter 1173. Her smile was like a flower and her watery face attracted his attention, making him even more determined to cross the Milky Way. He was so engrossed in his thoughts that when he heard Gu Mengmeng calling him, he was dazed for a moment. After being stunned for a moment, he finally regained his senses and answered, "Oritin." "Oritin." Gu Mengmeng was surprised by this answer. That foodie could not see anything else other than food. Elvis and Leah were also familiar with him. If he was not someone they could trust, Elvis and Leah would never allow him to hang around Gu Mengmeng, not to mention letting him become the messenger's guard. Initially, Elvis had his eyes on Oritin because he had no worries and no weaknesses. Cole or anyone else would not be able to threaten him with Gu Mingming's methods. If Cole could pull Oritin over to his side, unless Cole was good at cooking and could cook better food than Leah. But this possibility was almost zero, because Gu Mengmeng clearly knew that Cole still maintained his habit of eating raw meat to prevent the wildness in him from degenerating. He did not cook at all. Could it be a plan to sow discord between them? Was he trying to plot against everyone around Gu Mengmeng until they were all disloyal? Gu Mengmeng squinted her eyes, as if she was scrutinizing Joshua. Joshua clenched his fists and continued, "There's a Fedaden city in the Mecca desert. The city master there, Bayan, is the guardian of the heart of the desert. And Oritin was born in that Fedaden city. Cole told you all these too?" Gu Mengmeng asked. Joshua nodded his head honestly, not daring to hide anything. "Is there anything else?" Gu Mengmeng asked nonchalantly. Joshua shook his head and said, "He only told me this much." Gu Mengmeng stretched lazily, then leaned into Elvis's arms and said, "You should be very familiar with the territory of Saint Nazaire. Find a place to settle down." "Yes, thank you great messenger for fulfilling my wish." The paper bag secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He finally got closer to Gu Mengmeng. Even if it was just a little bit closer, it was enough to comfort him. Elvis carried Gu Mengmeng and left. Leah swayed his tail and said to Joshua, "Then, I'll have to trouble the witch doctor for the tribe in the future." "Yes." Joshua was very respectful towards Leah. One reason was because he was Gu Mingming's most favored partner. If he wanted to become Gu Mingming's partner in the future, it would not be wrong to build a good relationship with this Sir Leah. Secondly, Leah did have outstanding knowledge and abilities in the field of witch doctors. As a witch doctor as well, Joshua naturally respected him. Leah could not be bothered to stand on ceremony with Joshua. He wagged his tail and chased after Gu Mengmeng seductively. They chatted and laughed as they returned to their cave. After returning to the cave, Gu Mengmeng looked at Elvis and asked, Hubby, you have been silent the entire way, what's wrong? Is there something on your mind? Elvis frowned and nodded. Then, he looked at Leah with a deep gaze. Gu Meng Meng chuckled. Why? He's been acting like a drunkard for the whole winter. Are you not used to it when he suddenly stops? Chapter 1174. Gu Meng Meng smiled and wrapped her arms around Elvis's neck. What, do you want to collectively retire? Elvis sighed softly and hugged Gu Meng Meng's waist. I just want to be like him, to only keep this identity and nothing else. Gu Meng Meng leaned against Elvis's chest. Let's take it slow. If I change the witch doctor and tribe leader at the same time, others will think that I am abandoning Saint Nazir. I don't care what others think. Elvis caressed Gu Meng Meng's hair. Gu Meng Meng replied, I know, but Saint Nazir was founded by you and Elvis after all. I still hope that my messenger's tribe is Saint Nazir and not Sauter. Elvis did not insist and only replied with one word. After successfully appeasing Elvis, Gu Meng Meng then turned to look at Leah. There is one more thing that I have been keeping in my heart for the entire afternoon. Lee's lips curled. Maya's stomach. Gu Meng Meng nodded. You smelled it too, right? The smell on her body. It's coal. Leah continued Gu Meng Meng's sentence. Elvis sneered and said, Cole is quite daring to come to Saint Nazir to spend the winter. Gu Meng Meng stroked Lee's tail. It's dark under the lights. The more dangerous a place is, the safer it is. No matter how many enemies he has, who would have thought that he would be so daring to openly move into Saint Nazir, especially when all three of us are in Saint Nazir. Yeah, not only did he stay, he even impregnated Maya. Ha, he is really capable. Lee's words were obviously sarcastic. Gu Meng Meng thought for a while. Could it be because the 16 valued females made things difficult for Maya before winter, so Cole is using this method to ensure Maya's safety? Leah chuckled. Do you think Cole is someone who would worry for others? Moreover, Maya does not have a snow fox among her partners. This little cub will be exposed the moment it is born, unless, he did not want this little cub to be born at all. Gu Meng Meng frowned. It can't be. Even a vicious tiger will not eat its cubs. Leo looked at Elvis meaningfully but did not say a word. Gu Meng Meng's heart skipped a beat. That's right, wasn't it their biological father who tortured Elvis and his brothers back then? The theory that even a vicious tiger would not eat its cubs did not seem to work in the beast world. Alright, since Maya is one of his people, it's not up to us to worry about her life or death. Xiao Meng has been tired for the whole day. Boil some water for her to bathe and let her rest early. Elvis himself felt that his parentage was no longer a big deal. No matter how deeply he was hurt in the past, it had already become an old scar. Although it was a little ugly, it no longer hurt. But every time Gu Meng Meng mentioned this, she would feel upset. So Elvis also started to avoid this topic on purpose, unwilling to make Gu Meng Meng upset. Leah pulled back his tail from Gu Meng Meng's arms and waved it. Alright, I'll go and boil the water. Then let her play with your tail for a while. She won't feel comfortable if she doesn't have something furry in her arms. Elvis ignored Leah and just placed his large tail into Gu Meng Meng's arms. Gu Meng Meng was fearless. She held it in her arms and stroked it to her heart's content. So, you intend to find the heart of the desert first? Elvis asked. Chapter 1175. I have no objections, I will listen to you. Gu Meng Meng chuckled in Elvis's arms. We definitely cannot bring little shit along when we go to the Mecca desert. I don't know how he is going to mess with me. Elvis played with Gu Meng Meng's little hand. Why don't I fight with him the moment he arrives? We can leave after he is satisfied. Then he won't mess around anymore. Gu Mengmeng shook her head. I don't think so. Based on Wabiai's ability to take a beating, only Elvis could give him a good thrashing. Even the current Gu Mengmeng would find it difficult to make Wabiai fight with all his might because of the difference in their physiques, not to mention Elvis, who was just a little wolf in his eyes. The next morning, Warriton carried his hunted prey over to share a meal. After enduring for an entire winter, he was already craving for food. If not for the fact that he had eaten quite a lot of roasted meat at the night campfire party, he would have charged into Elvis's cave and kidnapped Gu Mengmeng to force Leah to cook for him. Leah took the ingredients Warriton brought over and started preparing to cook. Meanwhile, Gu Mengmeng called Warriton, who was circling the pot, over. Based on the premise that Leah would definitely cut off his meals if Gu Mengmeng did not agree and that he could not defeat Gu Mengmeng's family of 3, Warriton obediently sat diagonally across from Gu Mengmeng with a poker face. His eyes were constantly attracted by the huge stone pot beside Lee's hand, but he tried his best to sit upright and expressionless. How much do you know about the Mecca Desert? Gu Mengmeng went straight to the point. Warriton was clearly taken aback. His face was expressionless and he did not even frown. However, Gu Mengmeng noticed that his pupils dilated in that instant. After pausing for about 5 seconds, Warriton finally replied. I was born there and am quite familiar with it. What about Bayan? Do you know him? Gu Mengmeng continued asking. Warriton nodded. After thinking for a while, he shook his head. Everyone in the Mecca Desert knows about Bayan, but no one has seen him before. He is more like a legendary character. What do you mean? Gu Mengmeng pressed. Warriton glanced at Lee's pot. The meat had just been placed in the pot and would need some time before it could be eaten. This period of time should be sufficient for him to tell Gu Mengmeng stories. With that thought, Warriton retracted his gaze from Lee's pot and focused on Gu Mengmeng. He said, Bayan was one of the partners of the previous messenger of the beast deity, but for some unknown reason, he was abandoned and became a stray beast. This was something that happened more than 1,000 years ago. It was said that he was still alive, but no one had seen him. Just like Snake in the past, he was not in the beast world, but everyone in the beast world knew about him. Wang Xiaoxin's partner. Gu Mengmeng instinctively said the name of the previous messenger of the beast deity. The main thing was that they came from the same era and knew each other very well. She and Wang Xiaoxin might have even passed each other on the streets before. She really could not do things like the people in the beast world and respectfully greet the messenger of the beast deity, or even worship something like 300 poems of the Tang dynasty. You're tuning in to the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.